The first thing we need to do is start with a blank page that has your navigation bar on it so that it carries over from the rest of your website. And we're going to build the structure of the catalog section first. We need to do this because it is where we'll be dropping the images. So we're going to start with the rectangle tool. Click on that, and then draw one in place. Will be a little bit rough at first, and that looks pretty good. And then we're going to do the three little catalog images underneath. And you may have more or less. I'm just going to use three for now. And we'll use the Option key to duplicate those. Just drag them across like that. There you go. It's lined up pretty well. Let me scoot this over a little bit. Okay, so we have our basic images here. You want to have these images set up pretty much exactly where you want them. Component states, which we're going to convert these into, are great for changing things across a website, but if you have to scale this later on, it's going to be a nightmare. So we'll have this set up. Okay, now that we have our squares set up that we're going to place our images on, we're going to click on the images we want to put in the squares and just drag them over the top of it. We've got three images here of a dinosaur, so we will take the main product image and drag it into the first rectangle, and then we'll drag the other three into the smaller rectangles underneath. There we go. Okay, so we've got our three images in place. We're going to need to scale these and kind of get the proportions to look a little bit better. So let's scoot this other window out of the way and bring the main images up to the front. The first thing, let's start with this guy up here. We're going to double click on him so we can get into the photo and just scale him down slightly, just get a little room around the box. And these two images on the bottom here are both being cut off. We're going to scale these as well, just so that we can see the frames. And like I said earlier, we really want to get these to the sizes, the actual sizes they are, because scaling them after they become components, it becomes a really difficult task to then scale the hover states and the component states. And so getting everything to the right proportions at the beginning is the way to go. And finally, actually, we will get rid of the borders around everything, because now we can see where everything is, and we've got everything in place. And actually the border is still there on the top one. Okay, so this looks good. Yours will probably look different. You have different products, but this is what we're going to work with to create instances for each of these, so we can kind of create a mock-up, an interactive mock-up of a catalog page. Now that we have our component built right here, we're going to need to create two different interactions with it, so that these bottom images become buttons that change out this image up here. It's sort of like a hover state, but they're custom interactions where you actually click on the image and it changes. It's a little bit of a hack, but it does work. So let's click on this image first, and we're going to create a new state called label. Cool. And then we're going to create another new state called painting. Then we're going to switch back to the default state and go into the prototype mode to sort of finish everything up and make our buttons. Let's click through to the label first. And we're going to click on the little interaction tab at the side. And then we're going to choose where we want that to go. We want to go that click to go to the state called label. And then we want the painting to go to the painting. So we're going to do the same thing here. And we're going to click over here and go to painting. So now we have our buttons set up, and we're going to hop back out of prototype mode and do this with the other two buttons. So let's go back over to design. Let's click on this, go to the label mode, so that now we can create our interactions on this part. Go back into prototype. So in label mode, we need the little dinosaur to go to the default mode, or default state. Then we need the painting to go to the painting state. We're done with that one. Go back to design mode, click on our interaction, go to the painting state, go back into prototype, and we're going to need to click on label and have that go to label, and click on default and have that go to default. So here, now we're going to go back into design mode and put all the images in place. And we could have done that at first, but I tend to like to do things in this order, just because at this point now we can, update all of our images. So we're going to drag let's see, we are in the painting state. So we're going to drag our painting over the top of the dinosaur, and it should fill that in nicely. Yeah, there it goes. It replaces that. Scale it down so it's not cropped off. Great. And then we're going to click on this again. We're going to go to label state. We'll drag the label into this image here. Click on it, scale it down so it's not cropped off again. There we go. And cool. And then we're going to go click on this and go back to the default state. So the other thing we're going to do in these different states is we're going to, just so that people know kind of what their state is, it kind of does what typical catalog pages do. We are going to click through to this image, and then we're going to make it somewhat transparent, maybe like 30% transparent. Here we go. Click back on this image, go to label. We're going to have to switch this back up to 100%. Go on the label state. We just need to, let's see, in the label state, we need to make the label a little bit transparent. Let's take that down. There we go. We're going to click through to the painting state. In the painting state, we are going to make that a little bit transparent. There we go. And we're going to bring this back up from the default state setting, and let's play it just to see if it's working. So we will go back from the design mode and play it. Click on our different states. Perfect, it's working. Actually, let me put that back in the window. Scale it down a bit. Okay, let's see if this works. That's working, that's working, that's working. Great. Okay, so that's it for that part. Next, we are going to add some placeholder text, the counter on the side, and a button. So let's start with the placeholder text called Nothosaurus. Let's make that that's a headline, so we're going to make it a lot bigger. Pick Arial Black. Maybe make the size like 50. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And then we're going to use our Lorem Ipsum plugin to kind of make some dummy copy here. Let's kind of eyeball the grid to sort of line things up. Switch over to plugins. You may or may not have the Lorem Ipsum copy. It's okay if you don't. Just fill it in with that, whatever you want. Insert the text. It's very tiny. We'll make that a little bit bigger. So let's go to the text tool and like that. Maybe make that like 20. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Let's go that. Okay, great. So now we've got a text block. We've got this. So we're going to do the number block underneath. Let's start building that now. We'll start with the square. We'll get the square about the right size. It's pretty good. Maybe make the border like 2 on that. Great. And then we are going to need some numbers. So let's get back over to the text tool. We're going to need a plus sign, a 1, 2, and 3, and a minus sign. So let's do a plus to start with. Plus, and maybe make that a little bit bigger. Put the plus on the right. Drag that across to the left. Make a minus. Minus. And I might just scoot that over here a little bit. And then we're going to need to throw this in the numbers in the center here too. So we're going to put a 1 in there. And let's kind of shift that down there. So, okay, so just like this section here, we're going to convert this to a component state. And let me scoot that over just a little bit more. So the first thing we're going to do is group it. And then we're going to, maybe let's switch back to the layers. Then again, Command K to make it a component state. So just like the buttons before, we're going to basically do a little hack and use some custom interactions to turn this into 3 different buttons. We've got a component, we've got everything going on, we got this. So we've got the default state, and then we're going to add a new state. We're going to call it 2. Oh wait, let's call it NO2. Now, and then take that again. We're going to create another state. And actually, while we're in NO2, we're going to change this to a 2. And then, so we've got state number 2. You guess what we're going to do next. We are going to create another state. Click on that. New state. And we're going to call it NO space 3. Great. And while we're in this state, so we're not confused, we'll change that to number 3. Cool. So we've got our 3 different states. Default, button number 2, number 3. And if we click through those, let's double check everything. It all looks good. Make sure we're in the default state and move over to prototype. Now it's similar to this section here. We are going to turn these little buttons to the side into changing the quantity of the products. While we're in the default state, the plus sign is going to need to, whoops, let's not do that. We're going to need to click through to the plus. There we go. And we're going to, on tap, no transition, go to layer number 2. We don't need to do anything on layer number 1. That's cool. Then we're going to go back to design, click on our button, go to state number 2, back to prototype, and now we will create a plus, go all the way through, create on tap, go to state number 3 there. And on the negative, we need to go to state number 1, default state, not state number 1. Go back to design mode, click on our button, move over to state 3, go back to prototype, click on a button, double click. Let's see, we don't need the plus sign, so we just need the minus sign here. Let's make sure we're clicking through all the way to the minus sign. There we go. And no transition, on tap. Let's see, we got to go, that needs to go down to number 2. And I think it's good now. I would probably need to preview it just to see. So let's switch back over to design mode. Let's play it and double check to see if those buttons work. See, we're on state 3. Let's go. Goes down to 2, goes down to 1, goes up to 2, goes up to 3. Great, it works. Okay, we're back in design mode now. The last thing we are going to do on this page is actually create a button down here. An add to cart button. And that's pretty, you guys should know how to do that. That's pretty simple. So grab the rectangle tool. Let's kind of maybe line it up like that. That's pretty good. Pull it in the corners, have some kind of a pillbox shape. Let's fill it with a, well, maybe grab the orange color from Jurassic Art. So yeah, that's cool. Let's make a fatter border, actually more of a black border, and then let's scale up the size to like 3. See how that looks. Let's switch back here. Yeah, 3 is pretty cool. And we'll steal this text from up here. We'll just go option, drag it over the top. Let's jump back over to our layers so we can get that in front of our button. Change that to add to cart. And we'll kind of get that centered in there. It's a little big. It's a little horsey. Maybe scale it all down a little bit. Yeah, that's better. Slide that under there. Maybe center everything under that column. Looks good. Now, you know, for the next part, we would actually take this button and create a new page and have a cart page that it goes to. But this is basically the prototype. It's a nice looking page, pretty simple. Yours are going to look so much cooler than mine. But thanks for watching.